Hey everyone, I'm Jaden,
And I'm Noah.
and we are the Super Gamer Bros, and this is the Super Gamer Bros podcast. We're just a couple of brothers who love playing games and love talking about games, so that's what we do. And Noah, are you excited for this episode? Because I'm excited for this episode. All right, we're rocking out, we're kicking ass, we're taking names, we're stabbing people, because we are talking about Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
What a game. Game of the year in 2019. It comes from Software, kind of their first game in a long time that deviated a little bit from the Soulsborne formula that they have in all the Dark Souls and the Bloodborne games as their kind of bread and butter games. Sekiro introduces a different fighting style focused on parrying and the rhythm of attack is very, very different from their other games, and I'm excited we're finally going to talk about it.
Yeah, if you can remember all the way back almost a year ago to our SGB Awards episode, we had the category of I think I called it like just play the game already award or something like that, which was basically both of us picked a game for the other that we wanted them to play within the next year, and Noah picked Sekiro for me, which was not surprising in the slightest. He'd been trying to get me to play that game for years. And then eventually Noah started a YouTube channel and used that as a way to force me to play Sekiro. And it worked. We actually probably all isn't uploaded yet because I haven't given Noah the final two parts as of this recording, but it is completely recorded me playing the game, except for the one part I accidentally, I deleted because I thought I'd already given it to Noah, but I didn't. That sucks, but whatever.
What a
Anyway,
rookie.
what a rookie. I played it. I really enjoyed it. It is a good game. A big surprise Noah was right about something that does not happen a lot, you guys. And now we get to talk about it on the podcast. Isn't that exciting, Noah? Aren't you excited?
Super excited.
Anyway, yeah, it's like you said, game came out in 2019. One game of the year, beating out gaming juggernauts like Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, not this is Sekiro. No, it beat out Death Stranding and Control. Beat out some big games there. Yeah, and it's like you said, it was kind of a deviation from Software's regular formula, and I think to this day is still one of the more unique From Software games. I don't think there's any they've made that is like Sekiro.
Um, eventually you'll play Elden Ring and we'll talk about that and what we like about that. But it is not like Sekiro, and there is no other game like Sekiro. To me, it's just when it came out, I thought like, oh, this is the next step in their combat. This is really fluid, really amazing. Their Soulsborne games can feel a little bit clunky at times, but they are dated. So for me, what I'm saying is I think, Sekiro is my favorite FromSoft game until Elden Ring.
Oh, okay. Anyway, let's hop into it, Noah, with the setting. So, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice takes place in a fictionalized version of Japan, specifically in the lands of Ashina. You explore many different parts of Ashina. Gonna kind of go through the map here. You explore the Ashina outskirts. There's Ashina Castle, the Sunken Valley, the Ashina Depths, the Senpou Temple, the Hirata Estate, the Fountainhead Palace. Those are all of your big areas, basically. Then there's also in those areas, I don't know if iconic is the right word, but they're like kind of also special locations. But in those areas, you have things like Mibu Village, the dilapidated temple, the gun fort. I feel like that's an iconic location. So you do have these kind of special locations inside these locations that I remember, but the big ones are the ones that are like, yeah, in the larger areas, I guess. Anyway, well, let's talk about the world, Noah. It's a very beautiful world. It's a very cool world. Very fun to explore. I like it.
Did you talk about how the map is, open to semi-open and areas are discoverable based off when you go there, and
It's
there are
you have,
missable areas.
yeah, I mean, you do not have to go to all those areas. For example, the Hirata estate is completely 100% optional, and yeah, I mean it's cool. Noah, what's your favorite area in Sekiro? What's your favorite location?
My favorite location is the Fountainhead Palace.
Ah,
It's just the most magical and beautiful to me. You know, it's water, the architecture is very pretty, the enemies are wearing interesting outfits.
they're also interesting creatures. You know, they're like the long neck guys.
The slugs,
Yeah, like I mean, like every other area, the enemies
but
are
they
basically
play you
just
a nice
humans.
tune.
Yeah, suck your soul right out. What is that?
I think it's a flute.
No, that's not. Sorry, no. I was just trying to think of my favorite area. Because the Fountainhead Palace, I don't like because the enemies in that area are such a pain in the ass.
I thought your favorite area was the what's it called? The shrine, because that's where you respawn every time you die.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. I think honestly, I would probably pick I believe the Ashina Depths because that's where the game ventures a little bit into like a little horror territory. A very like there's some scary things you deal with in the Sunken Valley, like
Encounters.
yeah, you know, when you're going through the mist and there's all the spirits in there, or when you get to Mibu Village,
Damn,
which
that's
itself
scary.
is a very creepy location. You also fight that very very unique mini boss, like Orin of the River. I think her name is something like that.
I ran up the water.
Of the water. Sorry, that was a failure on my part. You know, not having experience with From Software games because this was my first From Software game. I didn't mention that earlier.
Insane. Not the first you
Um,
ever tried, but the first you completed.
yeah, I played Dark Souls 2 for like an hour and a half many years ago, but
Bloodborne
this
for an
is
hour.
no, I've never played Bloodborne. Are you saying you did?
No, I thought you did, but I definitely have. I beat like Bloodborne almost halfway through or something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I actually never played Bloodborne. I remember, I think this is back years ago. I think like the first time we tried to do a YouTube channel, back when we were still in high school, Bloodborne was a newer game. And I don't know for sure, but I think, you know, we were looking for two-player games, and Bloodborne hypothetically is sort of a two-player game. So we were like, oh, let's play Bloodborne because that's popular and whatever. And then, like, I started the game. I think I maybe did create a character and play the first 5 minutes or so, but we looked it up and realized that playing cooperatively in Bloodborne is very weird, very From Software weird, and wasn't like you can always be in co-op, so we ended up not doing it. I think that is a true story.
Yes, Elden Ring was the first game they ever had that actually has decent co-op, but it's still very weird and kind of clunky. Anyway, Sekiro.
Anyway, Sekiro. Oh yeah, but I was just talking about the Ashina Depths. Yeah, it was just a very creepy location. Did have one of my least favorite bosses in it though. Anyway, moving on. The story. I guess I'll just read it and then we'll talk about it. So the story here, following the Sengoku period, Ishin Ashina seized control of the land of Ashina. During this time, a nameless orphan is adopted by the wandering shinobi known as Owl, who names the boy Wolf and trains him in the ways of the shinobi. Two decades later, Ashina is on the brink of collapse due to the now elderly Ishin falling ill, and the forces of the Interior Ministry steadily closing in. Desperate to save his clan, Ishin's adoptive grandson Genichiro seeks the immortal Divine Heir Kuro in hopes of using the dragon heritage in his blood to create an immortal army. Wolf, now a full-fledged shinobi and Kuro's bodyguard, fights Genichiro but loses both Kuro and his left arm. However, being immortal, Wolf survives and is found by a retired shinobi known as the Sculptor. The Sculptor nurses Wolf back to health and gifts him a prosthetic arm. To rescue Kuro, Wolf assaults Ashina Castle whilst being forced to confront his past. 3 years ago, Kuro's birthplace, the Hirata estate, was raided by bandits led by Wolf's former teacher, Lady Butterfly. While Wolf was able to defeat her, he was stabbed in the back by an unknown assailant, but survived after Kuro made him immortal using the dragon heritage. In the present, Wolf once again confronts Genichiro and defeats him. forcing him to flee. Kuro asks Wolf to perform the immortal severance ritual, which will result in Kuro's death and prevent anyone from fighting over his immortality. Wolf reluctantly agrees and sets out to collect the necessary materials for the ritual. Wolf's quest leads him to cross paths with Ishin, who is going by wearing a mask, going by the name of Tengu, who gives him the name Sekiro, the one-armed wolf. After collecting all the components for the ritual, Sekiro is confronted by Owl, who is revealed to be the assailant who backstabbed Sekiro at the Hirata estate. Owl reveals he also seeks the dragon heritage and orders Sekiro to renounce his loyalty to Kuro. If Kuro is chosen, Sekiro fights and kills Owl. Sekiro then enters the Divine Realm to collect the final material for the ritual. Upon returning to Ashina, Sekiro discovers Ishin has succumbed to his illness and that the castle is under attack by the Interior Ministry. Sekiro eventually finds Kuro under attack by Genichiro, whom he defeats again. Realizing Ashina is lost, Genichiro sacrifices himself in a ritual to revive Ishin in his prime so that he might restore Ashina. Ishin honors his grandson's wish and fights Sekiro. After defeating
Wow,
Ishin...
what a story so far.
What a story so far. After defeating Ishin, there are 3 possible endings. Performing the Immortal Severance endings ritual results in the eponymous standard ending, where the dragon heritage is removed at the cost of Kuro's life. Afterward, like the sculptor before him, Sekiro retires as a shinobi and spends the remainder of his days carving Buddha statues. Working with Emma to find an alternative way of severing immortality results in the purification ending, where Sekiro sacrifices himself instead of Kuro, and Kuro, now mortal, decides to leave Ashina and travel the world, basically just enjoying his days before his death. The final ending, Dragon's Homecoming, is obtained by helping a character known as the Divine Child. In the Senpou Temple location, you find the Divine Child of the Rejuvenating Waters. She basically is one of, I don't know how many, a number is never given, but a bunch of children who were basically experimented upon to try to create an immortal child like the dragon's heritage, the Divine Heir, using the rejuvenating waters of Senpou Temple. She is the only survivor, but it was successful because she is immortal.
That's correct.
Correct. So if you take Kuro to her, Kuro's body dies, but his spirit lives on inside the Divine Child, who goes on a journey with Sekiro to return the dragon heritage to its original place. Alternatively, when approached by Owl, Sekiro can choose to forsake Kuro and obey his father, at which point he is forced to fight and kill Ishin's doctor Emma and then Ishin himself. Corrupted by bloodlust, Sekiro betrays and murders Owl as Kuro watches in horror as Sekiro becomes Ashura, which is basically like a demon of fire and rage, which is the Shura ending, in which that one is I guess cool because it says like there's a
It's
narration
crazy.
after. Yeah, there's a narration after where this narrator who I don't know who the voice of the narrator is. I don't know if he's like a character that's actually in the world or if he is just kind of an out of body narrator. But he basically says how like there was a slaughter in Ashina where like hundreds and hundreds of people died, and then for centuries after that, you could always hear whispers of a demon lurking around, which is meant to be Sekiro. That ending is absolute
Obviously.
insanity. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So those are the 4 endings. Let's first say, Noah, what is your favorite ending?
My favorite ending is the best ending.
Which one is that?
Oh, the Immortal Severance?
Oh no.
Is that no, the Dragon's Homecoming.
Oh, see, 100% agree with you. The Dragon's Homecoming. I actually, if you watch the playthrough of the second to last part, where I get the first 3 endings that will definitely still not be uploaded by the time this episode comes out, but give it like a week. I'll get those clips to Noah eventually. I said I love that ending because it's the one ending where Kuro and Sekiro both sort of live, and then Sekiro goes off with the Divine Child to like they're traveling west to return the like dragon's heritage, the dragon blood, where it initially came from, because the dragon came from the west. I just think it's a great ending. I actually really like the Divine Child. I really like her character, and I would love to see more. I think, as I said in the recording, I think that ending has the best potential for a sequel. I think that sets up a very interesting sequel where you play as Sekiro and the Divine Child as they're traveling west, trying to restore the dragon's heritage. I think that's a very cool concept. I think it's a very interesting story, and I hope that I know ever since this game came out, the Sekiro fans have been demanding a sequel from Software, and From Software just adamantly refuses to do it.
And now
But
you're on
I
board?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would like just the gameplay is great. We'll talk about it. I would love a sequel for the gameplay aspect, but I just think the story opportunities of just all the different unique like people you could interact with, just more of Sekiro and the Divine Child together. Yeah, I think just from a story perspective, a very interesting sequel I think could be made here.
Yes, I hope that's what they do next.
Uh,
Although I do have Armored Core 6, their most recent.
A lot of good reviews for that. A lot of good reviews for that from both like
I've played
professional
a little
reviews
bit of the tutorial.
from professional reviews and from people I actually work with that have played the game. A lot of positive reviews for that game.
Yeah, Eddie is obsessed with it. He's the one who bought it. He bought it on my account because he wanted
Oh,
somebody to play it with.
you don't say his name on this podcast. I'm bleeping that.
I didn't use last names. That's the whole thing. Anyway, it's
Anyway, what the ending? The
oh no no
sequel?
no no the game. It's a mech game. I'm just
Oh,
not
sorry.
super
I
into
thought we
mech
were
games.
uh,
I just wanted to clarify what my problem with it is.
now
And as
now
far as
now
mech games go, it's probably the best there is.
now. Hold on. Let me pause and ask. Have you ever played a mech game before?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I don't think I have.
they're all pretty
Anyway,
much the same.
Anyway, oh, I will say overall, and I know this is just kind of a From Software thing. At least that's what Noah has told me, and I have to go off what he says because I haven't played. Again, an hour and a half of Dark Souls 2 is my only other experience with these games. Like I don't even think I made it to an actual boss fight, but not important. I don't like the way in which the story is presented. It is very minimal. There are very, very few actual cutscenes, which is a shame because I love the cutscenes in this game. I think they're very good. I think the animation is good. The voice acting, I played the game dubbed. No, you originally played it subbed. I think the dubbed voice acting is very good, and I like cutscenes. I know that I guess this is just a kind of this is their thing. I think of not a lot of cutscenes, but a lot of just talking to people. That's you get your story by talking to people and eavesdropping on people. That's basically where you get 90% of your story here. And I just find it a little boring that presentation because some of those conversations to kind of get story stuff it just take a long time. And I don't know something about like being in the game and not being part of a cutscene to me just makes it feel longer or something. And it's the same with like side stuff. Like there's so much stuff about this game I only know by researching the game because it didn't hook me enough that I wanted to go out of my way to kind of look into and learn these things. I was like, I'm just going to look it up, which is a shame because I think the concept is very interesting. Yeah, like I said, I want a sequel just for the story aspect because I do think the concept was incredibly interesting. I just wish it was like I know it's their thing, but I wish it was just presented in a more direct way.
That's so funny because this is by far the most direct way From Software story has been told
Yeah, that's what you
from any
said.
game I've played. And it has the most direct conversations with characters that just explicitly say things. And they're still kind of veiled, but in
Yeah,
other From Software games, it's like everybody you talk to is speaking in riddles, and you have to watch 20 videos on YouTube to understand what the actual story of the game is. You know what I mean? But Sekiro
yeah,
is not
yeah.
like
Sorry,
that.
I was muted. I do know what you mean.
You can definitely pick up the story of Sekiro as it goes along, and it does make sense. Um, yeah, I think it's my favorite of all the From Software stories.
Yeah, I know. I've I've seen fair share of like from software games that insult people for not liking that aspect of the game because it's like, oh, you just need everything handed to you on a nice, silver platter to enjoy it. And I'm like, I guess for me the answer is yes. Again, I enjoyed what was there, but
But if I play through your whole game and I don't know what happened, it's a bad story. Like you didn't get the
I won't
point
say it's
across
a
in any
well, I won't
way.
say it's a bad story. I would just say it's badly presented.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Anyway, um, yeah, I guess talk about. No, I'll talk about it now because also like the Purification and the Dragon's Homecoming endings. So like because the Immortal Severance ending is the default ending if you just play through the game and do nothing extra, you'll get it. The Shura ending is just literally the one point in the game where you choose to either be with Al or be with Kuro. That's it. Nothing else you do matters up to that point. But to get the Purification ending where Sekiro dies instead of Kuro and the Homecoming ending, you have to do like so much side conversations with people, go collect these random items. Like there are places of parts of the game that I never would have explored if it wasn't for getting those endings because I either didn't know they existed or I mean playing with Coach Noah as I was, him
Woo!
knowing what's important and what's not, I didn't really wasn't required to explore. I still did explore most of the game playing by myself because I did just enjoy it and I wanted to. But yeah, there are certainly some areas that I would not have been to, didn't know existed, whatever, without like doing those endings. But yeah, it's just so intricate. There's so many steps. Like, talk to this person, reset the area, talk to them again, reset the area. Now they're over here. Go talk to them there, and then travel here and talk to them there, and then go grab this item, and then go back and talk to them. Yeah, I think it's just excessive. And again, it's so like minimal about it that I don't know how like the homecoming ending, which is my favorite ending. You first get that ending by talking to the divine child and she gives you rice. And then you have to eat the rice, come back and get more rice like multiple times before like she gets sick and then that kind of is what spawns moving towards that ending. And then like they'll ask you to find an item and they'll give you like a very minimal, oh, I think it's around here somewhere kind of direction for it. Um that is not really good for actually finding said items again without a guide. I don't know how people did it. But like with that, like with having to because the rice she gives you is a healing item. So it's weird that
Doesn't give you many hints.
yeah, you take rice from her, you eat it, you come back, she gives you more. Okay. Barring anything else other than curiosity, let's just say you're good at the game and you never have to use that rice to heal because you don't run out of other healing items. Okay, you'll never find that ending just for the sake of you're too good at the game.
I'm sure people who
Yeah.
played through it without knowing just only had the base ending. But I was
Yep.
following a guide for trophies and the fact that I wanted to find all the bosses.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we both
Well,
actually did that. We have both
yeah,
killed every single boss in this game.
correct. Yep. Well, it's even like if you look at even the purification ending, the way you kind of jumpstart that ending is you have to go to in Kuro's room in Ashina Castle. You have to go behind a specific wall after talking to Emma and Kuro, who are both in there, and exhausting all dialogue options. You then have to go behind a certain wall to eavesdrop on Kuro when he's standing in a certain spot and hear him say something to then ask Emma what he's talking about. Dude, how did someone just do that? I just think it's so
Exactly.
yeah, I just think like who just does that? Like who would think to, oh, I'm gonna go over here and oh hey look there I can listen to him from here. Wow, that's crazy. And yeah, I think it's just way too hidden and kind of obtuse to be like, I don't know, good. Like even if you're someone who I think looks for secrets in games, which normally I'm one of those people. It's just when I was playing this I had Noah kind of coaching me on what to do, so I didn't necessarily have to.
Because it's too
I
bothersome in this game.
yeah, I just don't know. Like if I had played this game blind, no guides, I don't think I would have found those endings. Like at all. I do not think I would have done it. Anyway, that's, my comments on the story. It's again, I like it. I think it's really good. I just wish it's just the presentation of it that I have an issue. Anyway, Noah, why don't you get us started on the game play?
All right, so the gameplay. Well, this story is kind of convoluted, and even though it was interesting, like Jaden said, it was not presented very well. That's kind of a staple of the company. So the combat is where this game, to me, thrives. I will come out and say that this is some of the best combat I've ever experienced in any video game. I mean, it's just very well thought out, very well done. It's complete, it's fluid. The rhythm is very addicting, and it's not too hard to learn and learn quickly. Like I do think it's just the best that they have ever produced from software specifically. And I mean, it's the best samurai combat for sure. And I have not played many games in general that have combat as good as this, and there is a reason for that. But first, I'll talk about it. Sekiro is a combat-focused experience played in third person. Combat itself is rather simple, with a standard attack, a dodge, and a block. If you time your block perfectly, you do a deflect, which counters the attack and damages an enemy's posture bar. If you completely fill an enemy's posture bar, they are open for a killing blow, which will instantly kill most enemies. You fill the bar by attacking and deflecting enemy attacks. Sekiro has vitality, which is his health bar, and a posture bar as well, which is filled by blocking attacks that are not deflected. So when Sekiro is blocking, it's the same way his enemy's posture bar goes up. So the combat for everybody is the same. If his posture bar is filled, he is stunned and open to attack. So he'll usually take damage. Sometimes you get away with it. But it is the rhythm of attack, deflect, and every once in a while dodge. And sometimes dodge forward, which creates just an amazing, addictive combat experience. I mean, every single enemy type fights a little bit differently and has different rhythm. And as you learn each combat scenario, it's just more and more fun as you go along. And, you know, as you go through this game, you do what the kids say, get good, and you learn. You learn how to beat every enemy, and then by the time you're beating Ishin for the second time, Genichiro is a punk. You've fought him like 10 times and he's easy. That is even just the basic combat in the game. That's not even mentioning the prosthetic tools or the skills or the items, which give you even more amazing abilities to make this game fun and crazy. Do
Yeah,
you want me to talk about Death and Revival, or do you want to mention something about that?
I'll just comment on this first. Okay, yeah, it is like I said, combat is incredibly simple. But I mean, to me, that's what I like about it, because like Noah said, there are all these extra things that he just mentioned that we will talk about. But the one thing I absolutely do love about Sekiro is how the combat system is so good because of how absolutely simple it is. Dodge, deflect, attack. That is all you need to complete this game. Literally everything else is just an extra. You don't need it to defeat anybody, all the bosses, all the enemies, anything. You do not need any of that stuff. You only need this basic three moves, and I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool how the game works like that. How it is so difficult, but it is also such a simple combat scheme that it literally is just you learn it and then you have to master it. That's all it is. And I think that's very interesting.
Jaden,
Yo.
shadows do not die once. I will tell you they die a lot more than twice if you're anything like me. What I mean by that is death and revival. As always with From Software games, death is a major part of Sekiro. When you die, you can use the Divine Heir's Dragon Blood to revive on the spot. You can revive up to 3 times in one life, but to do so you must achieve at least one killing blow. Your nodes of resurrective power can be restored by achieving killing blows. So, From Software, they always have a thing where the fact that your character is dying and coming back to fight again is usually like some convoluted part of the story. But I really like it in this game in the story aspect. Obviously, in the gameplay mechanic, it's I think it's way better than most of their other games because a lot of their other games don't have a system where you can just get up and keep fighting with basically another half health bar and run away or fight it out. But Yeah, so to me, this game, which is a mix of straight combat and stealth, and sneaking, is it really, really needs something like this where you can revive a few times, especially in the long, drawn out, difficult boss fights.
I really like this system actually, because basically you can revive once. Like through playing the game, you will have 3 nodes of revival. You can revive once, and then to be able to revive again, you have to use a killing blow. And then you can revive again if you die again, but again you have to at least get 1 killing blow in there before you can. I think that is a cool. I think that is cool. I think that's interesting. The fact that you don't have 3 revivals just all willy nilly. You actually have to earn them if you want to keep reviving. I do like that. I do think it does kind of suck in terms of boss fights because with boss fights you're fighting one enemy by himself, and if the boss takes multiple killing blows, say a boss fight has 3 phases. If you get to the last phase and you have not revived once in the fight, you still only have 1 revival because if you die and revive, you can't get another killing blow before, actually beating the boss. So you only get at most 2 tries per like boss phase. I feel like that's a little because I feel like it's not rewarding you for doing well. If you get to the last phase of a boss that has say 3 phases and you have not died yet, then I feel like you should be able to use all of those revives because hey, you got to this phase without dying. Congratulations. Here's some extra opportunities.
Right.
But the game does not do that. That's the only part where I don't like it. Also, 2 of your healing nodes have to be refilled after using them. Oh, you refill them by using death blows, but like 1 death blow doesn't refill it. And kind of like the stronger an enemy is, the more it refills your node. But the only time I ever found that an issue actually was the final boss because most times 1 death blow of a boss will like refill it entirely. For some reason in the final boss it did not do that. It only refilled it like an eighth. So facing that final boss, there were a lot of times where I only had 1 revive the entire fight because my others had been used. And you can, I guess, if you want, go grind it out by killing some random, weaker enemies. But I'm like, that's just such a why. But yeah, I mean, I was recording, so I wasn't going to go do that. And 2, I think it's stupid that you have to do that to begin with. Again, I feel like it's just an unnecessary punishment in the game. But it's from software. That's what they do.
Yep.
Anyway, let's talk about enemy
I
types.
keep thinking just wait till we play Elden Ring.
Uh, so there are no specific enemy types, as typically seen in games in Sekiro. Like your brood enemies, your lighter enemies, whatever. There's not like a category to it. Like some games will have like God of War. God of War has like your book where it's like, oh hey, here's this enemy, and like all these kind of subcategories of them. But enemies can be grouped based on the most effective way to beat them. Be it dodging their attacks and damaging vitality when you have the openings, or by focusing on breaking their posture. That's basically just the 2 ways. And I think that's cool. I like that. How it's not like you just approach every single enemy by breaking the posture bar. Just because it exists doesn't mean it's the only thing that matters. And I do like that. I prefer enemies where you can break their posture because that's a lot faster. The enemies, especially when you get into the mini bosses, and even some of the bosses work like that, where your most effective method is to just run around and evade their attacks, and then
Whittle at
you
their
know
health.
yeah, whittle at their health when you do have openings. Admittedly, I don't like that as much. It's
No, but I think that's a fun strategy when you're forced to do it in these games because you have to be like a perfect defensive wall, like countering every single attack that you can of your opponents just to hit them once and go back into the wall mode.
yeah. Yeah, the I prefer the posture breaking enemies because the posture bar fills up faster than the health bar goes down for every single enemy. That's 100% fact. So yeah, it's just like the boss. Yeah, the dodge and attack with opening fights just take longer because whittling down health is just a very long
It
endeavor
is
in this game.
tedious.
Yeah, it's like I wouldn't say it's harder because honestly, I think in terms of if you're talking just straight difficulty, I think it's a lot easier to dodge attacks and then attack when you have an opening, especially because the enemies when you have to do that typically have very slow attacks and a lot of openings for you to hit them at least once. But man, I mean, it just takes a long time. Anyway, yeah, that's just that. I think it's just cool. Kind of just that distinction between enemies. Noah, why don't you talk to us about the special attacks?
All right, these special attacks are three types of dangerous, perilous attacks, as they are called in this game. Excuse me. That come from the enemies. The first is a sweep. This is probably Jaden's scariest. He had the hardest time dealing with sweeps. I did until about halfway through the game, and then it just clicked for me.
I will
Um,
say I did actually reach a point playing through New Game Plus where it did click for me.
there you go.
It might have been late in the main game before New Game Plus, but it did click for me. I would
Yeah, at
actually say
some
my
point it just
scariest.
becomes part of the rhythm.
Yeah, it clicked for me at one point, and I did get very good at countering sweeps.
But a sweep is, your enemy drags their weapon across the ground at your feet, and the two options you have are to try to dodge away. And a lot of times that doesn't work because your enemies are large and have very long weapons. And Jaden complained about the dodge in this game. It's a little stunted. It kind of slows down Sekiro's movement, but it's meant to be like that. The other perilous attack is the grab. An enemy,
Did you
a
say
red. Yeah.
Did you say how to counter the sweep?
Oh, sorry. The other counter to the sweep is jumping. If you jump, you simply just go over the sweep and you have the option to do two things out of the air. One of which is to press X again and jump off your enemy, doing quite a bit of posture damage usually. And the other is to come down swinging if you have that skill. There's also other options, but we'll get there. So the second attack, as I said, is the grab. When a grab comes up, the red symbol flashes for all three of these attacks. They're different symbols, but they're all red and fiery. The grab has absolutely no options. You just haul ass. Try not to be anywhere near the area that grab is coming. There is one grab in the entire game that can be countered, and I'll tell you right now which one it is. It is the
Emma?
lady. No, the lady at the gun fort and in the cave.
Snake Eyes.
Snake
Snake
Eyes.
Eyes.
Snake Eyes Shigaraki. Either one of the Snake
Shirahagi.
Eyes. Oh, right.
The
Either one of the Snake.
Shirahagi and Shirafuji.
Right. Either one of the Snake Eyes, they have the same moves. Their one grab attack can be countered if it's perfectly timed or if you use the umbrella. Then finally, the most fun perilous attack and the one you want to see from enemies is the thrust. The symbol pops up and an enemy goes to lunge at you, and if you pick up the skill, you have the option to dodge towards it and use the Mikiri counter skill to step on
Mikiri
your. Yeah,
counter.
that's right. The best move in maybe all
I
of
would say
gaming
the history of
history.
gaming. I would say the history of gaming is the best move.
But you step on your opponent's blade and have an opportunity to attack them. And at the first, it's kind of hard, but when you get it down, it's like second nature. And those are the three perilous attacks.
Yeah.
I just wish there was a solid counter to grabbing.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say grabbing is the most terrifying to me now because, as you said, there's no counter. You just have to run. And I'll say between the three, as a general rule, grabs do the most damage to you. Sweeps, in my experience, from when I could tell, actually don't typically do too much damage if they hit. I don't know why. Thrust, there's a lot of varying there. Some of them do a lot of damage. Some of them don't do as much. But grabs consistently do at least like half your health every time. It is a huge pain in the ass. As Noah said, thrusting is the best. Makiri counter, love it. Best move in the history of gaming. It's cool. Anyway, let's talk about the combat arts, Noah. These are found or learned. These are attacks activated by using block plus attack. So if you're holding block, you just press the attack button, and he does a combat art. You can only have one equipped at a time, which honestly I feel like is kind of lame because there are literally probably at least 20 of these. I would say with confidence.
There are a lot.
And they typically do increased damage to enemy vitality and posture. But also, some of them take a long time and leave you open to attack to a faster enemy. Or any enemy in talking bosses, because a lot of bosses don't stagger if they're in the middle of an attack animation. I have absolutely been caught in a loop of one of these attacks before and taken some punishment because of it.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of these attacks are really, really cool. You have like the Mortal Blade, which is a special blade from the story, and you actually get to use it, and it's a very beautiful attack, and it does crazy damage.
Yeah.
And you can block it, but it does damage straight to your health bar anyway, so it's very useful for certain bosses.
Yes.
There's
Also,
also, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to pause since you mentioned the Mortal Blade. One complaint I have about the story, super stupid that Genichiro just happens to find a
He
second
happens
Mortal
to
Blade.
find a second Mortal Blade.
Like, what the hell is that?
I
What
wanted to
the
see
hell
how
was
you were gonna
that?
react to
Oh
him
my
using
god.
the other Mortal Blade.
Like, nowhere in any part of the game is this thing hinted at. And then you go
Nope,
to the final
nope,
boss,
nope, nope.
and he's just like, boom, I have a second Mortal Blade. And I'm like, what? And he
Yep,
opens every fight. You run towards him, and once you reach the trigger, distance, the proximity, his first attack is always a Mortal Blade attack, and you can't block it or counter it. It
you
does a
run
lot of
around him.
damage, and he managed to hit me with it like over 50% of the time because I would just want to run in and start fighting, and I'd forget that's what he does. Watch the
That's how he
video.
gets you.
I talk about it every time.
Anyway,
Anyway, moving on, Noah, combat
um,
arts, you were saying?
there's more. Just so many really cool combat arts. The Ichimonji double. That's one where Sekiro does two very large, very posture damaging overhead swings. And a lot of these, all the skills he learns from enemies, he learns are techniques that enemies use against you in the game. So you're kind of like learning how what they do works, and that's how you get better at defeating them.
Yeah, that's very
Um,
true. It is the techniques that enemies use, and I do think that's really cool about it.
yep. But I want to say that, an example, one other example for a cool use of a technique is there's this one ninja art technique where you flip up and you do like a drop kick from the air. And if you do that technique when somebody does a sweep, it's dodges the sweep and hits them, and you have combat advantage also.
Oh, see, my thing is, yeah, a lot of those attacks have actually incredibly situational uses. Same with the tools that we'll talk about in just a second. My only thing is like that's it. Like, unless you're using that one situation where something is useful, in most encounters, especially against bosses and mini bosses, a lot of these combat arts, in my experience, are just not useful. You have kind of those openings to attack in like the dodge driven encounters, which I always use the whirlwind slash, which is the first one that I got because it's very good. It is a very good attack. But yeah, most of them like they just take so long, and bosses will not just let you use them. And again, they don't flinch when they're in an attack animation most of the time. So they'll block it, they'll deflect it, or they will just attack you in the middle of the animation. And like you said, the drop kick that lets you dodge blades, like very situational, like against enemies that sweep, which I guess to be fair, a decent number of enemies sweep, but it's only useful on this like the one attack. And yeah, I overall do not like the combat arts because just the way the combat works and how typically fast paced it is and how slow some of these attacks, a lot of these combat arts are, I just do not find them useful. At least I guess with the way I play the game. Noah?
Well,
Noah, you there?
yeah,
Noah?
I thought you were gonna
Hey.
do ninja techniques.
Oh, sorry. Let's talk about ninjutsu techniques. So these are 3 special techniques gained through playing the game. I don't exactly remember how you unlock all of them, but there's the blood smoke ninjutsu, where you basically use an enemy's blood to make a kind of basically like a smoke bomb. It lets you go back into being hidden if you do a stealth killing blow. All of these you have to do stealth to activate them, but whatever. Then there's the puppeteer, basically makes an enemy fight on your side, which actually is a very cool one. And bestowal, which I never once used, but from what I can tell, it has you like it basically surrounds your sword with their blood, which increases your reach and damage in your attacks
Yeah, you never used
for
it.
a
It's
certain
really
time.
cool.
Yeah. Anyway, again, this is situational. The puppeteer is useful against some of the like too many bosses, and the what's it called? Oh, and then for one of the endings, this is I think one thing that I wish the game did more. There are actually two instances of you could say puzzle solving where to kind of solve this encounter you have to use the puppeteer ninjutsu on an enemy. In one case you use it to cause an enemy to make a distraction, and another one you use it to cause an enemy to basically fly a kite for you that you then use to traverse a very large gap. I wish the game did stuff like that more. I thought that was a very cool concept of using this ninjutsu to traverse through the world. Um, and like it's only used in those two instances. I wish that was something that they kind of did more. But yeah, these I never really used, other than
I thought
those.
they were really cool, but I never really used them either. The Shinobi prosthetic tools, Jaden. When Sekiro loses his arm, he gets a Shinobi prosthetic tool, which is basically an arm that can change into a bunch of different things. He's got a shuriken, a firecracker, a flame vent, an axe, a spear, a mist raven ability, an umbrella, Sabimaru, divine abduction, and the finger whistle. You can both find and collect materials from enemies that can be used to upgrade the tools and give them additional bonuses. And a lot of the tools themselves are, optional and found.
Yeah, you have
Um,
to find most of them. I know the umbrella you have to buy, uh, but I think most of them you do just find in the world. And as well with most things in this game, they're kind of completely optional in terms of finding them. Like there are none I think that are required for story, but they're all useful.
I never saw you use many of them.
I basically use two, or
I
I
have
use three.
used I've used every single one extensively, every version of every single one through the upgrade tree, and they all have uses. Some are just much more specific in,
Yeah, well, I
not
think
like combat.
yeah. Well, I mean, again, they're situational. Like the divine abduction, you get an upgrade for it that's like called it's gold. I don't remember what it's called. That like makes enemies drop items before you kill them, which is useful for grinding the items you need for upgrades. The umbrella is very useful because it basically lets you block like any attack. So I would use that against certain enemies that had very difficult or unblockable attacks. And then my main ones I used were the shuriken and the firecracker. The firecracker basically stuns enemies for a time, letting you get some hits in, which is good, and the shuriken lets you deal some damage from afar, or at the very least stop an enemy's posture bar from recovering, because that is a thing.
Yeah. So, for those that don't know, the flame vent shoots fire. The mist raven, it lets you turn into, kind of like a cloud of raven feathers when you get hit by an opponent. It kind of replaces the counter, and you teleport behind them. The Sabimaru is just a little sword. It's got poison. He swings fast with it, and the finger whistle attracts enemies and can be used once when you upgrade it. Can be used once during battle to stun, maybe twice, to stun an opponent.
I think
Really
it's like you
cool. I
said,
mean, there's a
yeah,
lot of gameplay online with the shinobi tools and fights where they're switching and just using all the tools and destroying opponents.
yeah. Well,
Those
they
are
also
easy. It just makes the game look awesome.
yeah, they also I would say there are a lot that actually do have situational uses, like they're specifically good against certain bosses. For example, the firecracker is like against the first boss you fight, he's on a horse and it scares the horse, and that's something that the game does kind of hint you at if you eavesdrop and listen to a guy. And one upgrade to the finger whistle called the Malcontent is very useful against the Demon of Hatred specifically. It stuns him 3 times in a fight. There's stuff like that, which is cool and kind of steeped in lore of the game. But like most everything else, it's not necessarily it's like very subtly hinted at, and I'm just not good at picking up subtlety, I guess. Yeah, you do, as you said, no, you get items. You get items from enemies to upgrade them. That I think is a bit grindy, but also there is a cool thing where you um can use the enemy. Oh, there are, I think, 3 instances of items where you actually have to find or purchase these specific tools that you then use, or not tools, materials that you then use to upgrade items. Like one is found near Mibu Village, one you get by defeating a specific mini boss, one you have to buy from a guy. That, yeah, it's like you need this specific item to get this specific upgrade, and that's something I thought was cool, and I wish they did more, because like having this like unique item to upgrade a tool, I thought was very interesting, and just added kind of extra gameplay elements of having to find the person who has it or find where it is. I thought that was cool. I wish they did that more as well. Anyway, let's move on to the healing gourd. Not much to say about this. It's your healing item. This refilling gourd heals a portion of your health, though it does take time to use, leaving you open to attack when you use it. All items, including the shinobi tools, do this actually, where you do have to be strategic about using it because it does take time, and while you're using the item, you're very open to attack. There are a max of 10 uses. Noah, very quick, when using the shinobi prosthetic, what's the name of the ammo for that? What is that called? I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
Gotcha. Well, you have spirit emblems. Just very quick, spirit emblems are kind of like your ammo. You have a max of 20 per life, although they do regenerate by killing enemies. All basically, a lot of what you do, some of the combat arts, the ninjutsu techniques, the shinobi prosthetic tools, all use spirit emblems. That is worth mentioning, because it is not like, oh, you can just use these all you want forever. There is actually a limit to it, so you do have to use them strategically. And then the healing gourd, yeah, it's cool. I like it. I like that it refills, so you always have these healings. You can upgrade it so it heals you more. It's a great item. I think I love the healing gourd.
My favorite part is when you get attacked, you stand up, you immediately heal, and then they hit you again. You stand up, you heal, and they hit you again.
Yeah, some of those timings can be very tight with using it. Some bosses especially do not want you to use that healing gourd.
Yeah, they do that in Elden Ring too. There's a lot of bosses that seem to like their attack starts right as you hit the heal button.
Yeah. Anyway, stealth. You can also stealth around, and if you manage to sneak up on an enemy, you can do a stealth killing blow. Useful for clearing areas or weakening mini bosses. You can also do this from the air. Yeah,
And
I
from
guess this was
ledges
like,
and around corners.
yeah, but I always had trouble with like the spacing for those. Very cool. You can yeah, this was actually like the first From Software game to feature stealth elements. And that's cool. I always like stealth in games. I think stealth in this game is good. My only issue is stealth killing blows are not very stealthy. Enemies can notice you from a good distance away, and I think that does make them a little less useful than they should be. If you can successfully sneak around and stab an enemy. But whatever.
I think as you get upgrades and stuff, stealth is actually a lot easier as you go. Like their detection goes down.
That is true. Yes, I will give you that. But yeah, I would say it's honestly, I would say it's not a major part of the game.
I disagree. I loved the fact that you could just stealth your way around.
Well, you can, but a lot of times, I mean, the way we play the game typically is just running through areas anyway, regardless of enemies. It's useful when you're exploring, and it does allow you to thin out enemy numbers a bit because they could really gang up on you. But yeah, I don't know. I wish that the stealth attacks were a little bit quieter, I guess. Anyway, traversal. Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, is a semi-open world game, meaning there are several smaller areas to explore, not one just huge open map. But you more or less follow a set path through the game's story. Sekiro can run and jump and use his shinobi prosthetic as a grappling hook to maneuver across the many areas of Ashina. I love traversal in this game. I think it is very fun. You have some platforming challenges of varying degrees of difficulty, but nothing really too hard going through the story. Using the shinobi prosthetic to get around is absolutely a good time. I love just running through this game.
Absolutely. With his double jump abilities, with his grappling hook, I kind of feel like Samurai Ninja Spider-Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Anytime
think
there's a problem in a situation, I'm just mashing the grappling hook button and trying to fly away.
absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a very fun traversal system. I think they nailed like the gameplay aspect of this straight basic gameplay, which you could say basically is your combat and your traversal. I think they absolutely nail 100%. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. It's good. Moving on to the additional gameplay mechanics. Probably the longest we've ever spent on combat and traversal, but it also is, the whole game basically. Let's talk about dragon rot. A dragon rot is a disease that affects those that do not have the dragon's heritage, aka immortality. For in-game purposes, so like if you die, basically for you to revive after you've run out of revives, you're basically like taking blood from other people is kind of how it works, and thus they get sick. Anyone you meet can get sick. For in-game purposes, the more people afflicted with dragon rot, the less chance you have of receiving unseen aid, which I don't know if I explained what that is, so I'll do that now. Unseen aid. Oh, I'll explain it later, actually. So I honestly hate this thing. It's just another punishment for death, where yeah,
Yeah,
these
the whole
people are
message of
sick.
the games are supposed to be like, it's okay to die 100 times. But if you put a
Yeah,
mechanic that's like, hey, the more you die, the more these people get sick, like, what the
yeah.
heck?
It's also kind of useless, stupid, because you can figure out a way to heal it by talking to Emma, and doing some side stuff, which is very simple. And once you can heal it, you use an item, which there are several in the game, like I think would never run out. You use one item. Every single person who has been afflicted with dragon rot is healed, and they can't get it again. So it's like at that point you can die all you want with no punishment. Which for me, the first time I did that was very late in the game when like I had basically met everyone. So yeah, there was at that point everyone was healed and they cannot get sick again. So I think it's kind of just a useless feature. I think the game would
Yeah.
be completely unaffected if it didn't exist, and honestly, I'd prefer it didn't. Anyway, Noah, tell us about skills.
Alright, so skills. Earn XP by defeating enemies, and when you gain enough, you unlock skill points, which can then be used to unlock skills. They come in 3 categories: latent skills, martial arts, and combat arts. Basically passive and active skills, and then combat arts, which we've already discussed.
Yeah,
Uh,
latent skills are things that like oh, the healing gourd heals you more. Oh, you take less posture damage when deflecting attacks, blah blah blah. Um, martial skills are attacks you actually just use in combat, but you can use whenever. For example, the Makiri counter or the what was it called, like the vault over, things like that. And then combat arts are we talked about those.
Dying causes loss of half of your experience unless unseen aid is triggered. So unseen aid is sometimes you'll just randomly get unseen aid and it will stop this from happening.
Yeah, I think initially it's
You also lose
30%.
gold.
Yeah. We talk about gold a bit later, but
Oh, good.
yeah, it's like 30% of I think it's a 30% chance initially, and it goes down the more people that have dragon rod. It mins out at 6%. Um, but yeah, let me tell you, stupid. I hate this. I hate this concept. You lose half your XP when you die. It's stupid. I hate it, Noah. It's stupid. It takes a lot of the fun out of exploring the game, as you say. Like it punishes you for dying. In a game where you're supposed to die a lot, it's stupid that they punish you for dying like this.
Yes.
Because especially later in the game, when it takes a lot of XP to level to get another skill point, when you
If you die and lose
yeah, if you
XP,
die
that's
and
huge.
you're like one kill from leveling up and you die and literally go to half a bar, it's annoying, let me tell you. Also, for the most part, I didn't find like the latent skills are great. I love the latent skills. The martial arts and combat arts, as I kind of said with combat arts, not I just didn't use them that much. With martial arts, they're a bit more useful. There are more that I did use because again, it's not like you can only have one equipped at a time like combat arts. They're just always there. But I mean, really, the Makiri counter is basically like the one of the earliest skills you can get and will probably be the first skill you get. Once you get that, you don't need anything else. I say.
That's bold.
I think like
No, I
a
think all
lot of
the skills can be useful. It's just the base game is so good, you don't have to check anything else out.
I mean, it's like I said earlier with you only need the block, attack and dash to and dodge to beat the game. If I were to say, oh, this thing is also necessary, it's the Makiri counter. Like, yes, you can beat the game. You can counter thrust if you time it perfectly. You can just dodge them and keep attacking. Makiri counter will make the game 100 times easier. So get that skill and then play on.
Did you ever use the Ichimonji?
I used it against one enemy because it was one of the first spear enemies when I was still having trouble with figuring out the Makiri counter because it does build up posture a lot, so that was a recommended skill to use against that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, a lot of videos I've seen, they love the Ichimonji double, and I just never used it.
Yeah, again, I
But
used it
that's what I
against the
mean,
one
is I
enemy and
think
that's
they're
it.
all like, most of them are good skills, and I've seen other people use them really well. I just never even considered using other things. I used, like you said, the Whirlwind Slash was all you needed,
Yeah, I used the
and it's the
Whirlwind
first one you
Slash.
get.
Yep, Whirlwind Slash, Makiri counter, and and that's it. And a few of the Shinobi tools. Noah, tell us about the Sculptor's Idols.
Okay, Sculptor's Idols are small idols found throughout the world where you can rest to regain health, and used items also resets enemies, fast travel, acquire skills, boost stats, and more. You must find them to be able to fast travel to them later. They're just the bonfires of this game, but they're these really cool little statues, and I love the animation for unlocking them, even though, sometimes it takes a little too long.
I was gonna say that, yeah.
But that's the fun of the game. If you're running past enemies and run to the idol, you got to risk them catching up.
Yeah. No, I like the Sculptor's Idols, the whole resting, which revives you, which, heals you, but also revives enemies, is a very cool concept. I'm pretty sure From Software were the first to do it. Also, I love the fast travel in this game. It really makes traversing this game super easy. Although, boy, I over relied on it because when I was playing through New Game Plus, Noah, without you, I was struggling to find some of these areas because I'm like, oh God, how did I get here the first time? Because you do it
Now
once
you
and
were
then you
like,
just fast travel.
when we were going through it the first time, you're like, how do you not know where to go? Didn't you beat this game multiple times? I'm like, Jaden, no, this map is confusing. You'll understand.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah, I
wait, how
was,
do I get there?
yeah, pretty much. I was like, oh shit, I gotta go to this place. How the hell do I get there from here? Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, they're cool. They're, as you said, they're like bonfires. Any From Software fan or Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order / Survivor fan, you know what we're talking about. They're cool. Anyway, Noah, now we talk about the bosses. This is what it's all about. I mean, the bosses, that's it. You can play through this entire game and basically not kill any of the normal enemies. It's all about the bosses and the mini bosses to a lesser extent. We'll talk about them in just a second. There are a total of 15-ish bosses in the game. Some bosses you fight like more than once. I don't know if like the game, they're separate encounters. I don't know if you would count them as separate. That's why I said ish. We're gonna list them all now. There is Gyobu Masataka Oniwa. There is Lady Butterfly, Genichiro Ashina, the Guardian Ape, the Corrupted Monk, the Folding Screen Monkeys, Owl but slightly different, the Headless Ape, the True Monk or whatever, the Divine Dragon, Ishin Ashina Old with Lady Emma, and Ishin Ashina the Sword Saint with Genichiro as well. Then there's the Demon of Hatred, the Great Serpent, and the Great Colored Carp.
Ah,
Ha!
what a crew.
What a crew. I do like how the game gives you an opportunity to fight both Ishin Ashina as an old man and Ishin
I
Ashina in his
was gonna say
prime.
that in his
Very cool.
prime. Hmm.
Um, how that
I
works
told you
is
either way,
honestly
you're gonna
stupid.
beat that old man.
Yeah, like the whole like Genichiro sacrificing himself and Ishin coming out of his neck, super weird. No, that was just weird. I feel like they
Oh,
could have
that's
done a
classic
better
From
way of explaining
Software.
that.
They do
But it was
stuff
very
like that a
cool.
lot.
But it was very cool getting to fight Ishin in his prime. I thought that was a very cool thing to put in there. And then also fighting him old, and they do fight very differently. They do have some of similar moves, but you do have to approach those two battles differently. They're incredibly fun. Old Ishin has some awesome attacks. Young Ishin has other different awesome attacks. Yeah,
They
it's
both
whatever.
lived up to the hype.
Absolutely, 1,000,000% I would agree with that.
What about when you fairly beat that Demon of Hatred?
Yep, I did it. Hate it. Anyway, yeah, bosses require multiple killing blows to defeat them, and usually have multiple phases where they change up their attacks. Every boss that has multiple phases, I think, at least changes up their attacks a bit, which is cool. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we could do a whole episode just taking a deep dive. I mean, we could do hours upon hours taking deep dives into all of these different boss encounters and what we like about them. We don't have the time here, but I just think they're great.
One each.
One each. What does that mean?
Did you want to talk about a boss?
Oh no, we'll do that. I figured that would be our favorite boss
Oh,
question
okay,
that we do
gotcha.
later is where we talk about it. Yeah. It's great. I absolutely love the bosses in this game. I don't think there's a single one that I can say I straight up do not like. I think they're all very cool encounters.
The
Uh,
corrupted monk.
I hated him, but like it's still it's just
It's still
he's the
fun.
he's the perfect mix of dodging and also deflecting that I just hate him. Anyway, memories. These are gained by defeating bosses. You use them at shrines to increase your attack power, increasing your damage. So even though not all of the bosses are required for the story, it is certainly in your best interest to fight them all because you get you get the memories which you can use to increase your attack power. Um Noah, tell us about mini bosses.
As the name implies, these are stronger than normal enemies, typically requiring 2 death blows to kill them. They do not have multiple phases, and they repeat often. But there is a wide variety, from stronger versions of smaller enemies to new unique brute warriors to the guys listed below.
No, I don't know, what do you want to say about mini bosses?
I love the mini bosses just as much as the regular bosses. The regular bosses you usually fight one-on-one, but the mini bosses will a lot of the times have a crew of people you have to deal with. And I think that provides an interesting section and a good use for the stealth of the game.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean there's a lot of mini bosses, but there are several repeats and it's like I don't know, it depends. But then there are some one-off mini bosses that I wish kind of did have repeats. Like as I said earlier, Orin of the Water was a very unique mini boss fight. She's the only enemy like that in the entire game. And then you have people like what's his name? What is it? Lord, is it Gyozu?
Gyobu?
Juzo,
Juzo,
right?
Lord.
Juzo the Glutton. Yeah, where you straight up fight that enemy type 4 times. There are 4 mini bosses that are him, and I mean one of them is straight up the same guy twice. Like straight up, you fight Juzo the Glutton twice, and then there's no, it's Juzo the Drunkard, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because the other one, there's like Tokojiro the Glutton is one of those
yes.
enemy types. Uh, but like that's a cool enemy type that's unique. I mean, you fight him 4 times, but it's still cool. Um, and like Orin, those are kind of unique mini boss enemies. And then there are a lot that are like stronger versions of, say, the Shinobi enemies, and I hate them, and I hate them to this day, and I'll hate them for the rest of my life. Uh, there's the long arm centipedes, which are really cool. Uh, there's the snake eyes. No, I hate the snake eyes. I struggle with the snake eyes so much. I hated them.
Me too.
Uh, let me tell you, go watch. I think it's like Sekiro part maybe 17 when I first take on the gun fort. Might be 16, and have to go up against Snake Eyes, Shirafuji, and let me tell you, that was a struggle. Noah was laughing at me. I got frustrated. If you want to see Mad Jaden, you go watch that part and watch me just utterly fail against Snake Eyes Shirafuji. But I did beat her. Anyway, yeah, mini bosses. Noah.
All right, so a special type of mini boss, and one that we saved to the end of our run for good reason, is the Headless and Shichimen warriors. These are apparition type enemies, and they can only be defeated by coating your sword in divine confetti, which gives it like this purple fire. It actually looks really cool.
It's a really cool look, but it also
Yeah.
means you're kind of timed in defeating them because you can only carry 5 divine confetti at once. So
Yep.
if you use all of it in a fight, you're screwed.
These enemies also deal special damage known as terror damage, which is very deadly. As you get hit with terror things, it fills up a bar, and if the bar fills up, you automatically die no matter how much health you have or any of that. None of them are required for anything, but they all have some cool unlock stuff, some special
Yeah, you unlock
buffs.
stuff, but it's very weird that I mean, straight up, completely optional. I accidentally found one headless while exploring an area of the game, and then there is, I would say, it's sort of in your path because you have to encounter it to like you have to run past it to complete the game just to get to an area. One Shichiman warrior, But it's like you can hypothetically play this game and not see a single headless if you're not like exploring thoroughly. And then there is one Shichiman warrior that you will encounter. It is weird how just completely optional and nothing these guys are to me.
Yeah, I love them because to me they were horrifying and the scary bosses.
Oh, 1,000,000% you're correct. But yeah, just shocking. Anyway, we'll talk about that as well. Hey guys, talk about prayer beads. They're gained by defeating mini bosses, and a small amount you actually do just have to find. You collect 4 to craft a prayer necklace, which increases your maximum vitality and health. There's a total of 40 in the game. I would say probably at least 30 of them you get by beating mini bosses, just to tell you how many mini bosses are in this game. It is a lot. Yeah, prayer beads. And then there's gourd seeds. You find these. One you buy, but most of them you find. They increase the healing gourd. They add 1. So I think initially it only has 1 use, and you can get it to a max of 10. So there are 9 of these to find in the game. Ugh.
Yep. Both of those are
Anyway.
just great at making you stronger and more survivable as you go
Oh,
throughout the game.
yeah, I would absolutely say, while hypothetically they are optional, you certainly want to get as many as you can. Anyway, the memorial mob. These are merchants found throughout the world. Also, mention that later. You give them sen, which is money, for stuff. Some of them have key items used for crafting, gourd seeds, or key items even necessarily. Yeah, just other key items. There are alternate gourds you can get. There are 3 that help you deal with elemental damage. We'll talk about elemental damage in a second. Also, as Noah said earlier, you lose half your money when you die as well if you don't get unseen aid. So, make sure. So it's honestly like you want to spend that money. They do sell items called coin. Is it purses or pouches?
First,
I'm gonna say purse. Yeah, coin purses. Of varying sizes. That if you die, you don't lose your items. So it's like if you have money, you want to buy coin pouches, purses, to so you don't lose money when you die. But yeah, just another kind of annoying aspect of death. I don't know these. Yeah, there's merchants. There are also kind of going with the great colored carp boss I mentioned earlier. 2 pot nobles who want to become the next great colored carp. They because there are, I can't believe didn't mention this. We're gonna have to pause for a second. Here, we won't pause. The pot merchants, you give them treasure carp scales from treasure carp that you find and kill. And where do you find them? In the water. Noah, tell us about underwater sections that I did not put on this document. My bad.
oh, that's okay. There are multiple sections in the game where there are large pools of water, and after defeating the corrupted monk, you get the Mibu breathing technique, which allows you to breathe underwater, so you're not timed, and it allows you to swim, underwater. And there's huge areas in some cases, and a lot of things to find underwater, including an underwater boss that Jaden mentioned, the great colored carp.
Although you don't actually fight him, that's kind of
No,
like he's listed as a boss, but you don't fight him.
yes, he's like the great serpent, where he's basically a set piece you're trying to dodge, and then you go through some dialogue puzzle stuff, and then in the serpent's case, you death blow it from above, and in the great colored carp's case, I'm pretty sure you poison it.
Yeah, you give him poisoned food.
Great job, Sekiro. You
Yep.
did it again.
It's also funny. I guess also mentioned there are 2 headless you actually fight underwater. And I'll say this is the only time in this game because you can't attack underwater, you can dodge underwater, and swim faster. That's the only part of the game that I feel like is not great. It's just
Yeah, it's very mechanically clunky.
yeah, fighting underwater is not a good experience. I can tell why they only did it twice, but also I would argue twice is too many. That is too many.
I thought it was a
Like,
really cool idea.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a cool idea. I just think that it just like you said, it's very clunky. It's the only part of this game that I would say is not a polished, oh yeah, this works so well. And again, it's weird that like you can do it, but those are literally the only 2 enemies you fight underwater. There's not an actual boss fight underwater. There's not anything else like that. It's just kind of like it feels like tacked on because of that, which is very weird for again how just polished this game is typically.
Yes. So, there are also side stories. Throughout the world, you find a small number of people, and some of these people need help. They will typically mention something they need, and you can help them with that thing. Helping these people gets you some special items. None of them are required for anything. It's all optional stuff. I think it's just a cool thing that's in the game. Talking to these people lets you learn a little bit, and it makes you feel like you're actually involved doing something and not just in like a hell world full of enemies.
Well, see, this is again just my overall problem with the presentation of this game is none of these are required for anything, which I just find so weird. Like you don't get trophies for doing them or anything.
Yeah, but we both did
So
everything.
weird in the modern society. Well, I didn't do a lot of these because they're not required for anything.
Oh yeah, I just ran into them a lot.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you talk to these people, and the game is very, again, like everything, minimal with its presentation. Like, it doesn't tell you, oh, this is a side quest, oh, this is the person you can actually help, whatever. A lot of these I kind of figured out by accident, which I guess is how it's supposed to work. But yeah, you just talk to these people, and like they maybe kind of offhand mention something, and then it's like, oh, you can actually find that thing and bring it back to them or something like that. It's just so weird how minimal it is. Yeah, there's no like indicator like, oh, hey, you've unlocked a side quest or this is what you have, or like any blatant like, hey, bring me this item. It's just so just uh, weird and minimal that yeah, I just don't like the presentation. I'm sorry, guys.
It's definitely a style, and you're just gonna
Anyway,
have to get used to it because it has not changed.
anyway.
Elden Ring is even more scatterbrained. I'm very excited for you to see that one.
Oh, great. Anyway, elemental damage types. There's fire, poison, and terror. There's like a bar at the bottom of the screen when you take this kind of elemental damage that builds up, and when it fills, that's when you are on fire and start actually taking vitality damage, or you're poisoned and start taking vitality damage, or you're terrified and you just die. I do. I honestly don't like these. They can be very annoying to deal with. Also, very spread out. Only certain enemies deal with it, including like bosses. Like I can't even think of an actual full-on boss that uses poison attacks. Oh, actually, no, Al does. Okay, one. Uh, I mean they're cool. You get gourds that can help. The gourd concept I think is kind of dumb because the gourds you get like a red gourd, a purple gourd, and a green gourd that can reduce those damages, but they only reduce the buildup of the meter. They don't. If you're already on fire, like the meter has been filled, the gourd will not put you out. I think that's where it kind of loses its usefulness because a lot of times those meters build up fast. Noah?
Yeah, that's what those bosses are meant to do, though.
I guess. Anyway, now we move on to our notable trophies. There's two I want to mention. One, man without equal, defeat all bosses. You have to beat every single boss in the game, all the optional bosses, everything. Because of this, it does take you at least 1.5 playthroughs of the game because the Shura ending where you fight old Ishin and Emma, like you have to do that for this trophy. That's like about the halfway point of the game, and then you have to beat Ashina the Sword Saint with Genichiro. So you have to, and like all the bosses that are past that point. So you do have to play through the game all the way up to Genichiro and Ishin the Sword Saint. And then you also have to at least play up to the Shura ending, which I did the Sword Saint and then did the Shura ending in my New Game Plus run. Yeah, it's not bad. A lot of bosses, varying difficulties. Demon of Hatred can kiss my ass. I'll be honest, guys, I cheated. I used the workaround where you can very difficult jump. Took me 30 minutes just to do the jump. Give me some credit for that one. Jump onto a building and glitch him off a ledge and he dies. Suck it.
Fake
Noah,
fan.
big fan. And then there's Height of Technique, acquire all skills. This is going to be the last trophy you get in this game. I will talk a bit about why this is so annoying later, but let me tell you, this is a very annoying trophy to get.
We kind of
Uh,
did talk about why it's annoying.
well, I mean in detail. Anyway, that's Height of Technique. Acquire all skills. Those are your big two. Like you do those two, you pretty much you. I highly doubt you can, especially getting all skills. I unless you are specifically trying, that'll be the last trophy you get because it is very insane. Noah, let's talk about our favorite moments. Oh, we're moving on to our questions. Noah, favorite moments?
My favorite moments are all the times you got to fight Genichiro again.
He
He was
just
the
keeps
one
coming back.
diced you in the tutorial, you know, the first
Yeah.
quote unquote boss fight where he cuts off your arm. So you're like, that guy, he's on my list. And when you meet him again, everybody feels like it's too soon. They're like, oh man, we gotta fight him already? Okay.
I will agree with that. If you don't if you don't include optional bosses, he's straight up the second boss of the game, which is incredibly surprising.
Yeah, but he just has, you know, he's so involved in the story. I think he's a really cool character. He spawns a second mortal blade. I
I mean,
mean,
it's
I just love Genichiro. And I
yeah.
actually beat him in the tutorial on my second or third playthrough.
Oh, so did I. Yeah. You still lose your arm though.
Yep.
Anyway, my favorite moments. One, the final boss battle. I thought it was such a cool, like the return of Genichiro, even though the sword thing was stupid. And then fighting Ishin in his prime, I thought was such a cool moment because, I mean, the entire game, everyone talks about what a legendary warrior he was and how, like, he's old now, but oh man, in his prime, he was unbeatable. And all this, like, they really build it up to be like, oh shit, this is it. This is him in his prime. Oh my God. And it is, I think I could say the hardest boss fight in the game. It is tough, and I think it is very cool. And then also the return ending, as I said, that's the like Dragon's Homecoming ending where Sekiro goes off with the Divine Child. That is by far, I think, the best ending. The potential for a sequel there is so good, and I'm hoping for it. Noah, your favorite boss battle. This is where you can talk about your boss battle.
Okay, my favorite boss battles are the ones against the owl because the more you learn about the owl's combat, he just does everything that Sekiro does, but he does it 10 times better.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you know, he's Wolf's father, he's the one who taught him and raised him. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's cool.
It was a
They're
scary fight.
good. They're tough fights. Mine is Ishin. Honestly, I can't even pick between the two because, as I said, they're different and they're both very cool in their own rights. They are very cool boss fights. I really enjoyed them. I honestly can't even tell you which one's harder because like if you do the sword thing, it has three phases while the old one only has two. But his first phase, he has a sword, just a sword, and it's I think his hardest phase because then he picks up a spear, which his attacks are way slower, in my opinion, a lot easier to counter or deflect, and he starts doing a bunch of thrust attacks. And boy, Makiri counter, I love you. It makes I found his second phase to be not difficult at all comparatively to the first, and then his third phase, the only thing that really changes, the big thing that changes with it, is now he starts doing lightning attacks, which we never talked about. Lightning is, I guess, also the fourth elemental damage type, where if someone hits you with lightning, you're shocked and you're stunned for a time. But there is a way to counter it. If you get struck by lightning in the air, so if you jump before the attack hits you, then the attack is then in your sword, and if you attack, hit R1, before you hit the ground, you launch the lightning back at the enemy, which does a decent amount of damage to both health and posture, and it stuns them, letting you get a few hits in. And for the Sword Saint's third phase, he does lightning attacks, which I think when I beat him, he did like three in that one attack, that one fight, which just the damage and the posture and the stunning. It's when you can counter lightning attacks, it honestly becomes your best weapon in the game. And then yeah, so I love the Sword Saint, and then fighting him when he's old, he has such cool sword attacks. Like he has an attack where like he slashes, he puts his sword away, and then there's like a million slashes coming at you at once in like a circle. Super cool attack. And his second phase, he starts doing fire damage. So he actually is, I think, probably the only boss in the game I can think of where you actually use both approaches on him. Where in the first phase, you're going to build up his posture and stun him that way. And in the second phase, a lot of his attacks become laced with fire, so you can't really just deflect them anymore because the fire will build up. So in the second phase, you have to dodge his attacks and attack when he has openings. So I think that is cool. He's like the only boss where you actually kind of use both in each phase. Anyway,
He's also the only boss in the game who pulls a gun on you.
oh, he does. That's bullshit. Um. Anyway, Noah, any miscellaneous things you like that we did not talk about?
Yes, I think the entire game is just beautiful. Like
It is a beautiful game.
the design of the map itself, the design of all the enemies is very unique and horrifying and a bunch of different ways. You know, Sekiro and all the main characters, Lady Butterfly, the ape, the animals, you know, they're all very interesting looking. And I just
Yeah,
think the game is a visual spectacle.
I get you. My thing is, you're always on your toes. One thing that I think is both cool and annoying about this game is you always have to be on guard. Um, Even if you're just running through an area, you need to know where enemies are. You need to know like where they're going to attack you from. You need to have a decent grasp on their attacks because this is not a game where even say my first playthrough, I had maxed out my strength to the point that I could by beating all the bosses. I had maxed out my health. I had the maximum number of healing gourds that healed the maximum number of health they could possibly heal. But if you're just running through an enemy area trying to fight enemies, they can gang up on you and they can kill you no matter where you are because their attacks still do a decent amount of damage. And if you're not careful, you will die against normal enemies every time. And I think that, and I like that. I think it's cool that, oh, you can't just go on autopilot and just kill everyone in any point in this game. It is always going to be a tough fight. And then Noah, what you didn't like about the game?
It's the excessive grinding.
Yeah, I
Did
get you.
you
I'll talk
talk
about
about it?
that in a second. So I guess I have three things. One, the story presentation. As I said, I just wish it was better, more direct. Two, the one-off boss and enemy types. As I kind of mentioned earlier, there's some really cool elements of this game that kind of appear once and never again. For example, Lady Butterfly uses what's the word, Noah? Like illusions?
Ghost enemies.
Yeah, ghost enemies and like illusions. Never ever in the game after that does that happen. You have, some of the cool boss types like Orin of the Water and oh god, you mentioned them earlier. It's like one of the mini bosses.
I just
I'm
want to
blanking.
clarify that I do know that the ghosts do happen at one other point in the game when you're in the
When
forest
you're in
that's foggy
Yeah,
and
but
all those
but but
spirits start
but
attacking you.
but I mean, there's like not another point in like a boss fight. Like no other enemy uses illusions. Like you're given an item to break illusions, but there's never another
Yeah.
enemy you're fighting that uses illusions. Orin of the Water, who she turns kind of incorporeal or non-corporeal, and then back to corporeal when she attacks you throughout like her entire fight, and she's got this kind of dancing attack style. Like you never encounter another enemy like her. And how, like we said, some of the items and attacks are very situational to use. I just wish like there's so many cool parts of this game where I mean, if you listen to the episode, there are so many times where we're talking about something. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. I wish it was in the game more. Like a lot of the coolest parts of this game to me are things that happen once and never happen again. And I'm like, well, that would be cool to see that again. And I think like Orin and the illusion enemies, Lady Butterfly, are probably the two biggest examples. And then excessive grinding. Grinding to get both items for crafting and skill points. I mean, this is honestly one of the most egregious games I've ever played in terms of that. I'll say that the skill point experience is worse because I had all of the items way before I had all the skill points. And just to tell you how excessive it is, um, by the time I beat the game, the first time I played through, no, it did every mini boss, explored every area, killed every single boss, including all the optional bosses, including the bullshit Demon of Hatred, everything. And then my second playthrough of the game, I skipped most of the mini bosses that were not required because by that point the XP gain from fighting them is not worth the time. Then I get to the so I basically only fought bosses, but I still fought every boss. I fought all the optional bosses because they're fun, because it is just legitimately fun and the experience. By the time I got to the final boss of my second playthrough of the game, I still needed, because I counted, 37 skill points. 37 to get all the skills. And of that 37, by that point, when I first started, I needed roughly like 40,000 experience to get a skill point. And a typical boss in New Game Plus gets you, let's say, I think like the Divine Dragon got me, I think 15,000. And then it keeps going up. By the time you like the last skill point that I got for the last skill, I think took 80,000 experience points. That's excessive. And there are basically two ways you can, and that's my second playthrough of the game. I'm basically at the end. If you play through the game and beat New Game Plus, you then go on your third playthrough where enemy experience does increase. Enemy experience and difficulty increases all the way up to, I think, New Game Plus 7.
Yep.
And then that's where it maxes out. Everything after that is just 7 again. but I mean, you can still keep playing your 8th, 9th, 10th, whatever playthrough. I assume, hypothetically, that if you beat New Game Plus 7, by that point, maybe a bit earlier, you will have gotten all the skills if you just fight the bosses and stuff. But that takes a long time. Like my second New Game
And
Plus
you have to be
playthrough.
good.
Yeah, my second playthrough. I am good at this game. I did not die to a single boss until I got to Owl. And doing that, like in my second playthrough, when I started my second playthrough, I needed 55 skill points. When I got to the end, before the final boss, I needed 37, so I didn't even get 20 total from that playthrough. And then, that's if you don't die, because if you die, then you lose all experience you had beforehand. So typically what I would do is I would defeat a boss, which would get me maybe halfway to a level, and then I would go grind till I got to the next level because I didn't want to lose that experience, because
Yep.
again, that's a stupid part of the game. So, I mean, basically what I ended up doing, because it's faster, but let me tell you, dull as shit, is finding a grind spot where it's like you kill this enemy, you go over here, you have a mini boss kill these two enemies for you, and then fast travel back to a shrine. Takes like 30 seconds, and you get 5,000 experience for doing it. I did that for 4 hours to get all the experience necessary to get the last 37 skill points I needed. Let me tell you guys, it's not a fun experience. This excessive to the max is grinding in this game, and that is honestly my biggest complaint about it.
Yeah, that's absolutely why I'm never gonna get the platinum trophy. I have every other trophy.
Yeah, like I made fun of Noah because I have the platinum in this game and he doesn't. But he doesn't because he lost his data and would have to restart from the beginning to get all those skill points. And let me tell you, after getting all the skill points, I don't blame you. Like if I lost my save at one point, I would not have done it again, despite how much I do like this game.
Exactly.
Ugh. Anyway,
That's
excessive.
why I still have, it's been years, but I still have my complete saved, fully formed character in Elden Ring. I'm not gonna let
Yeah.
it go.
Yeah. Also, then real quick, replayability. Yes, I absolutely love this game. I will replay it again. It's fun.
It's a fantastic game. I love
Yep.
it. I can't wait for a sequel.
Anyway, Noah, your final thoughts on Sekiro Shadows Die Twice?
Sekiro remains to be my favorite From Software game. I think it's the most complete, the most polished, it has the best combat. It's gorgeous. This is the most in-your-face story they've ever had. I would just love for a sequel. This is my favorite of their whole series. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, for me, Noah's been trying to get me to play this game for years, and after playing it, I mean, it honestly is one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. I absolutely love Sekiro. I think part of the reason is I actually do think I'm good at this game, and I'm not good at a lot of these games, but I think I'm very good at Sekiro. It's an absolutely fantastic game. The combat is one of my favorites of all time. And the story, again, I don't like the way it's presented, but the story itself I also think is really good, and I also really hope that they do make a sequel. So that's Sekiro. Shadows Die Twice.
So that's Sekiro. Now, Jaden, we move on to the indie bit. The bit where we talk about indie games.
Yay!
Today, we are talking about the Forgotten City. The Forgotten City. I'll do the story synopsis first. The Forgotten City is a game where you play as a person in somewhat modern times. I didn't catch what time she's from. Or my character was female. I can't remember if you picked or not.
Was that actually male female? Because to me it just looked like two different, like just a slightly larger build man and a slightly smaller build man.
No, I was definitely regarded as a female by everybody in the city.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I played as a male.
I'll talk about that. Okay, so that's good. I want to talk about the differences. But yeah, I played as a female and she arrives at this place, meets this lady who tells her that some dude went inside. You go inside and it's like an ancient Greco-Roman architecture and there are gold statues all over the place and you find, is it a note?
I need you to describe it more. I don't. I guess I'm gonna say
When
note.
you discover the portal.
Oh yeah, it's a note.
Yeah,
I
a
guess.
note with a body of a statue, and he says, "Don't go through the portal. I tried many times. You can't
Yeah,
fix
that's
it."
Al.
Yeah, it was Al. But so you go through the portal, and it takes you back in time to this city where there are, I think, 23 people trapped, and you're brought back by oh gosh, I can't remember. For some reason, I can't remember his title.
Magistrate.
Magistrate, thank you. Magistrate Sentius, who, has a problem in this city and he needs your help finding out who's going to break the golden rule. So this city, when they all arrived here, it has an inscription that says, if I think it's like if one sins, all are punished, basically.
It's the many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
Thank you. But that's the same thing. So yeah, basically, what happens is if any one person in this city commits a sin, everybody in the city is going to be punished. So Magistrate Sentius wants you to find out who is going to commit the sin. And so basically you go through the game talking to all the people in this town, learning about them, where they came from, what happened to them, what their motivations are, who they're going to vote for magistrate today, what they would like done, things like that. And you can choose to do things like steal or things like that, which will in fact break the golden rule and activate the curse. So when the curse is activated, all the gold statues come to life and use golden bows to shoot at the people and turn them into gold statues. So as you go through the game, there's a voice whispering to you from the statues, and you're learning more and more about, what is actually going on here. And as you're going around, there are a lot of instances you come across, such as a lady crouching by the front of the place where people normally come in, and she says there's I don't know what she calls him, an assassin coming in.
Assassin.
Yeah. And so she goes to hide in this place and it collapses and she dies. And then you go talk to the assassin and he kills you. And then when you redo time and go back through, you have different options. You can save that lady. You can convince the assassin to go into the building. So, this whole plot is basically like Groundhog Day, whodunit kind of thing. And the gameplay involves running, ziplining, mostly conversational, picking dialogue options and stuff. There is some combat when you get a golden bow and you have to fight people who are like half turned into statues and you just turn them into statues. And then at the end of the game, you find out that is pretty much, I think, the bad guy. He's the one who wants to been trapped in this city. So much so that it was actually pretty messed up. But in my game, I followed all the quest lines and I found the and spoke to none other than because yes, and came here and it was all with and whatever. So there are so many options as you go through and there's different endings and things that can happen. In my game, I actually the golden rule and he and they all and I will say this, I wanted to tell you, Jaden, the difference between as a female character, I was not allowed to vote and all the female characters could not vote, and I was talked to, I had a lot of lines that are like, well, you're a woman, why are you asking about this or that?
Yeah, as a man, you don't deal with any of that.
That's funny. Did you vote?
I mean,
Did you get a
no.
vote?
I mean,
Okay.
I did get to the election. I did not vote myself. I was not asked. Yeah, cool. You explained.
Jaden,
I mean, basically
did
everything.
you
No
like
one
it?
has any reason. I mean, no one has any reason to play it now. You spoiled the ending. That's insane that you did that. I'm gonna bleep that.
Oh
I'm gonna
man.
bleep that whole. It's just gonna be like a 15-second just
But it
bleep.
was so good. And I
I'm gonna
just
tell you, Noah.
discovered
Let
it.
me
I
tell
didn't
you
even know
Let me
there
hold
was
on.
multiple endings.
Yeah. Well, no. Here's the thing. I will say again. I'm gonna creatively bleep most of this. You should listen to this episode, Noah. You'll have fun out of this.
Tell me how much you love this game.
Noah, let me tell you. The first thing that I can say to describe this game to someone who is playing it for the first time: slow. The people talk slow.
Press circle.
It is very slow. Yeah, you can skip the dialogue, which I did, but I'm kind of annoyed that I have to do that because one, this is an indie game. It was made by 3 dudes. Congratulations to them. It looks a bit rough. The people do not look great. The talking is very, very slow. which is a shame because I think the voice acting for people who I assume are not actual, super professional trained voice actors that voice these characters is actually really good. I think they did a great job. I did want to say that. But it's slow. Haley hated this game. Haley wanted me to tell you specifically she gives this game a big thumbs down because she thought it was the most boring game she's ever seen.
That's ridiculous.
She specifically said, "Tell Noah that," and she thumbs down me right there to my face.
It's a great mystery.
But let me tell you, and I was very bored with it at the beginning, and it's like you get there, you get to the city, you talk to the people, you talk to Sentius, and then it's like, boom, you do whatever you want. It is open. And I was like, dude, this is just kind of insane. Like I was like, ugh. And again, just because people talk so like I didn't want to talk to people because just talking takes forever. And then yeah, I'm just like skipping dialogue. I didn't like that. But the actual story of this game, especially when you get the good ending and that whole stuff happens, it's very good. I actually was very interested in this story.
That's crazy.
That's an alternate way you can do it. But I mean, it's just so intricate and insane, and like figuring out the secrets of the city, everything. I mean, and the mythology aspect of this game is very, very, very well done. Yeah, for the story of this game, to the guy who wrote the story and directed it and stuff, A plus plus. I think it was very, very well done. It is very interesting, but I think it potentially can intimidate people who are not being forced to play this game for a podcast because it is just so it's slow. It is very slow, and at the beginning, it is very. I feel like almost intimidatingly open. But
Yeah.
I would say I would absolutely like because you can read way faster than they talk and just skip the dialogue. That's what I did, and I would honestly recommend doing that to someone who's going to play this game. It is very interesting. I think that fourth ending, it's literally called the canon ending, is awesome. It is really cool. I think you should absolutely play it. I think it is worth your time to play because even it's slow, but it doesn't take a long time. Like my first time playing through the game, no guide, no anything, I got to the ending in like 5 hours. So it's not a long game. It just like it's one of those games that feels longer than it is. But overall, I would give this game a thumbs up. I liked it. Anyway, that is The Forgotten City. Noah, do you want to know what the next indie bit game is?
Let's hear it.
The next indie bit game is called Dodgeball Academia.
Okay.
I was scrolling through the PS Pass. I saw the name. I loved the name. I love the art. Not too terribly long. So we're going to do Dodgeball Academia. Anyway, that's another successful indie bit. Go us. We're the best. Hey guys, don't forget, new episodes every other Monday. Rate and subscribe. Tell us if you like our show or tell us if you don't, and tell us why. Tell your friends and enemies about the podcast. And you can follow our Instagram, the Super Gamer Bros, for updates on episodes. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Super Gamer Bros. That is one word, capital S, capital G, capital B, period at the end, where videos are uploaded every single day. No one gets one gameplay uploaded every day. And you watch our Sekiro Let's Play. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we will see you guys next game.
Bye.